But even if our individual rights can be secured against what our DNA may disclose, our peace of mind may not be so easily restored. As Nancy Wexler well knows, genetic knowledge can be a scary prospect. And I agree with her. There is no point in knowing about something that we are powerless to remedy or ameliorate. Alzheimer is a major concern of people my age. But in the absence of proven treatment possibilities, I have no desire to be tested for the presence of the ApoE4 allele. Craig Venter, incidentally, does indubitably have one copy of it. We know this because he insisted on disclosing that the genome sequenced by Celera was his own. And this allele, through its role in cholesterol processing, is associated not only with a higher risk of Alzheimer, but of heart disease as well. ApoE4 is not an asset in any respect. Stuck with this genetic self-awareness, Venter is wisely trying to respond prophylactically as best he can. He is taking drugs called statins, which lower cholesterol levels and may retard or prevent the onset of Alzheimer. Even without knowledge of my APO alleles, I'm also taking statins, figuring that a little preemptive medication can't do any harm. If statins are as effective as some claim them to be, we can look forward to many more years of Venter-generated, and hopefully Watson-generated, controversy. Genetic knowledge will remain frightening so long as we remain in the present intermediate stage, possessing in general the power to diagnose, but not to cure. But ours is not an unprecedented medical predicament. Think back to the early years of the 20th century. A diagnosis of infant diabetes was a death sentence. Today, with insulin therapy, such a child can expect to live to a ripe old age. The hope of our research efforts is that one day, soon, a diagnosis of diseases like Huntington will be transformed in the same way, from death sentence to prescription. Already we're in a far stronger position to deal with bad rolls of the genetic dice than we were even 20 years ago. The ever-increasing life expectancies of people with, for example, Down syndrome and cystic fibrosis attest to this progress. But for now, our most powerful weapons are diagnostics. The choice of whether to be tested is one best left to each individual or parent, those who will most directly bear the burden of genetic knowledge. In the case of prenatal diagnosis, it is the prospective mother who should make the decisions. That is not to say that others shouldn't participate, but ultimately the choices should lie with the woman. Not only is she the one having the baby, but, like it or not, our world is still one in which women are expected to bear the brunt of the day-to-day care of children. Regardless of the specifics of decision-making, however, one thing is completely clear to me. Over the ages, genetic disorders have rained unthinkable misery upon countless families, such as Carol Carr's, which has been ravaged by Huntington disease. Testing holds the power to reduce misery by preventing it. Having developed the tests, it's unconscionable not to make their existence known to those who might want to use them, inexcusable not to make them universally available. Chapter 13. Who We Are. Nature versus Nurture. Growing up, I worried quietly about my Irish heritage, my mother's side of the family. My ambition was to be the smartest kid in the class, and yet the Irish were the butt of all those jokes. Moreover, I was told that in the old days, signs announcing the availability of jobs often ended with, "No Irish need apply." I wasn't yet equipped to understand that such discrimination might have to do with more than an honest assessment of Irish aptitudes. I knew only that though I myself possessed lots of Irish genes, there was no evidence that I was slow-witted. So I figured that the Irish intellect and the shortcomings for which it was known must have been shaped by the Irish environment, not by those genes, nurture, not nature, was to blame. Now, knowing some Irish history, I can see that my juvenile conclusion was not far from the truth. The Irish aren't in the least stupid, but the British tried mightily to make them so. Oliver Cromwell's conquest of Ireland surely ranks high among the history's most brutal episodes. It culminated in banishing the native Irish population to the country's undeveloped and inhospitable western regions, like Connaught, while the spoils of the more salubrious East were divided up among the Lord Protector's supporters, who would start to Anglicize the vanquished province. With the incoming Protestants believing the heresies of Catholicism to be a one-way ticket to perdition, Cromwell duly proclaimed in 1654 that the Irish had a choice. They could go to hell or Connaught. At the time, it probably wasn't clear which was worse. Seeing Catholicism as the root of the Irish problem, the British took draconian measures to suppress the religion, and with it, they hoped Irish culture and Irish national identity. The ensuing period of Irish history was thus characterized by a form of apartheid, every bit as severe as that so infamously practiced in South Africa, with the principal difference being the basis of discrimination, religion rather than skin color. Among the penal laws passed to prevent the further growth of popery, education was a particular target. One statute of 1709 included the following provisions: "Whatever person of the popish religion who shall publicly teach school or instruct youth in learning in any private house, or as an usher or assistant to any Protestant schoolmaster, shall be prosecuted for discovering, so to lead to the apprehension and conviction of any popish archbishop, bishop, vicar general, Jesuit, monk, or other person exercising foreign ecclesiastical jurisdiction, a reward of £50, and £20 for each regular clergyman or non-registered secular clergyman so discovered, and £10 for each popish schoolmaster, usher, or assistant. Said reward to be levied on the popish inhabitants of the county where found." The British hoped that the Irish young attending British-sponsored Protestant schools would wean themselves off Catholicism, but they hoped in vain. It would take more than oppression or even bounty to prize apart the Irish and their religion. The result was a spontaneous underground educational movement, the hedge schools, with itinerant Catholic teachers leading secret classes in ever-changing outdoor locations. Often conditions were appalling, as a visitor noticed in 1776. They might as well be termed ditch schools, for I have seen many a ditch full of scholars. But by 1826, of the entire student body of 550,000, an estimated 403,000 were enrolled in hedge schools.